It sounds simple, but getting in a variety of foods is not always easy for many dancers. And today we're going to talk about strategies for prioritizing food variety in your dancer fuel plan.
I'm Rachel Fine, registered dietitian nutritionist and founder of To The Point Nutrition. A dancer's performance is a direct result of hard work and motivation. So where does food fit into this? There's a lot of myths and a ton of antiquated ideals, and I'm here to dispel those.
Hi, I'm Rachel Fine. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist here to help dancers just like you fuel their bodies in a way that supports their relationships with both their plates and their bodies. Today we're talking about a tenet of the healthy dancer. The healthy dancer is that 6-stage approach that I utilize with dancers to reframe what it means to be healthy. And this is the concept of food variety. One that sounds straightforward, but for many dancers isn't as easy as it seems. And that's because there are 3 main barriers to why dancers might struggle to get in a varied meal plan. And those 3 challenges are time, money constraints, and restrictive eating patterns. Buying in bulk is one way to support eating a variety of foods even on a budget. Eating the same foods every day, it takes the guesswork out of our meal plans. For some dancers, depending on where you are at in your journey with your relationship with food, even these patterns can actually be supportive in the very beginning stages of learning how to fuel your body adequately. But quite shortly into the journey, we are encouraging that dancers start to broaden their horizons, getting in different types of foods in order to ensure that they are getting in a spectrum of nutrients. There are many benefits to a varied diet. Nutrient diversity is one of them. It's simple. Different foods contain different nutrients, and eating a variety of foods is going to help your body access the countless vitamins and minerals, macronutrients and micronutrients that are found in various foods. As an example, colorful fruits and veggies, whether fresh, frozen, or canned, offer countless of immune-boosting benefits. A variety of different grain-based foods, grain-based bread products, breakfast cereals, whole grains, and yes, even baked goods helps our body access a variety of plant-based starches and even plant-based proteins, ensuring that we're getting in a spectrum of these diverse fibers and diverse amino acids to support the anabolic building of muscles, hormones, enzymes, and more. Food variety also supports mealtime balance. If we're not getting in multiple components of different foods at each meal or snack, we run the risk of having some meals and snacks that are less balanced than they should be. That balance meaning we are getting in foods that are rich in those macronutrients, those carbs, proteins, and fats. Mixed meals being especially helpful, meals that have multiple components of these different foods. So as an example, building a wrap with different veggies, different proteins, whether that be chicken or tofu, maybe adding in some legumes and lentils to the mix, or hummus. All examples of gaining variety even in just one dish. As briefly mentioned before, food variety helps to support digestive health. A diverse diet supports a diverse gut microbiome. So as a reminder, our gut microbiome is made up of billions of bacteria that inhabit the lining of our gut that support our gut health, which is further helping to promote digestive regularity. Among others, a flourishing gut microbiome is also associated with stronger immunity, mood, mindset. A varied diet also helps to support your relationship with food. I noticed this with the dancers I'm working with within the Healthy Dancer program. The more dancers are open-minded to introducing or trying new foods within their dancer meal plans, the less redundant our meal plans feel, the more exciting our meals and snacks can feel, further contributing to how we are relating to our food choices on a day in and day out basis. Remember, having an emotional connection with food is not just normal, it's very much encouraged. And introducing new foods into your day, becoming more open-minded, varied with the foods you're choosing will help to sustain just that. Now, for many dancers, the process of gaining more variety within their meal plans might take a bit of a structured approach to begin with. This is especially true for dancers who struggle with challenges like food inflexibilities, such as with restrictive eating patterns, oftentimes born from, just as an example, clean eating lifestyles. I hear from so many dancers who experience clean eating as being this gateway to very rigid restrictive eating patterns. FYI, I've been there too. It's actually why I've started everything I do as a dietitian. But what I've learned just in my personal experience and from the nearly 15 years of working with dancers as a licensed dietitian, it's that food inflexibilities will not support us both in the short term or in the long term. Pickiness is another example of where dancers might struggle to get in this variety. And a more structured approach, especially working alongside a dietitian like myself, can help in building some of those meal plan strategies to do exactly that. Broaden the variety of foods in your daily diet. But let's talk about a couple of these strategies. First and foremost, we want to try to reduce those barriers that are preventing us from getting in a variety of foods. Now remember, not every eating opportunity is going to be one that's going to allow us to get in variety, and that's okay too. Busy and active schedules are often some of those barriers that make this challenging. And in those moments, if you are running to class, if you are eating between classes, you might have to rely on familiar options, whether it's like a trail mix or a bar or a quick yogurt parfait. It's hard to get variety in some options that are just easy, packable, and convenient. But even in these small instances, we can begin the work of aiming for some variety, whether it's in your trail mix, switching up the type of nut you're using, swapping pretzels with a breakfast cereal, or maybe choosing a completely different type of dried fruit. It could be a different flavor of yogurt, it could be a different bar. That's just one small way that you can get a little variety in, even in an already comfortable situation, even with a food experience that already feels quite comfortable to you. Now, if you are trying new foods or challenging yourself to break the potential for food rules, this is where mindful eating patterns will be most beneficial to the food variety process. So as I said, it might not be an accessible option when you are busy and on the go, but I often encourage dancers to set aside various points within their week where they can practice more mindful eating behaviors, sitting down and bringing awareness to the foods in front of you. How do they taste? What are their aromas? Is this a food or a meal that looks appetizing to you? Really bringing those senses to the table. This process can help as you are breaking some rigidity around new foods as you start to increase the variety of what you're eating in a given day. Now, for my dancers who find it especially challenging to increase the variety in their meal plans, specifically because of the comfort that might be received when eating familiar foods, so these are for my pickier dancers or my dancers who might have experience with restrictive or disordered eating behaviors, this is where we want to allow ourselves to go slow and steady when it comes to introducing new foods. Now, we can start by simply changing up familiar foods, cutting them differently, serving them differently in different types of meals. So if you're a dancer who likes tomato sauce, maybe you want to try some fresh tomatoes in a salad, or mix in some fresh tomatoes into the tomato sauce that you know you already enjoy. You can also play around with some flavorings of already familiar foods. An example could mean adding a different ingredient to a yogurt parfait. Maybe it's swapping dried fruit with chocolate chips. Slowly but surely, you can continue to increase these new foods in your day and slowly transition to completely new ways of eating them. So for example, instead of having your chocolate chip in your yogurt parfait, building it into an ice cream sundae. This is part of the process of breaking food rules as well. For those tomatoes, you can slowly introduce those fresh tomatoes into an already familiar tomato sauce, as I just described, and then ultimately get those fresh tomatoes into a salad or into a sandwich or a wrap. So just an example of how you can slowly transition from introducing one new food into a current familiar experience, slowly exposing yourself to this food to ultimately experiencing it in a completely new way. It doesn't have to happen overnight. It also doesn't have to be a forceful process. Introducing new foods in hopes of gaining more variety into your diet can happen gradually. But we want to still be persistent. Control, or lack thereof, is a common experience that dancers might feel when we are trying to decrease pickiness and increase food variety into their day. So if you feel a degree of control around eating familiar foods consistently, then I want you to start to challenge yourself in the areas of discomfort. Recognize that some level of discomfort might be needed in order to consistently expose yourself to some of these new foods to ultimately gain a sense of comfort in these new experiences. Also, simply interacting with new foods before even eating them could be a first step. How does that new food smell? How does it look? How does it feel? All of these are steps in which you can take to slowly increase the variety of foods into your day. But I've got a ton more ideas on the blog, and I'm going to encourage that you check it out. So I'm sharing a link below, but you can just head over to dancenutrition.com, simple search of food variety, and it'll give you a ton more strategies to help increase the variety of foods in your dancer fuel plan. Until then, I'll talk to you soon.